making the headlines in our various newspapers. I am Inumidun, Afonja. This morning we have The Punch, The Nation, Nigerian Tribune, Vanguard, Guardian, Daily Trust, and Blueprint newspaper. Today's edition promises to be enlightening. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. It's Newsreel on Pensioners 106.7 FM, and I'll go straight into the front pages of our newspapers. From the Guardian newspaper now, 9 died in Katsina Yobe attacks. How hoodlums hid under SARS protest to raise my palace, and that is coming from Oba Elemoro. Also, NECO postpones 2020 SSC indefinitely. I will not rebuild facility destroyed during protests, says Omai. Rivers community deserted for fear of reprisal. Now to the front page of the Punch newspaper. Chinese products top Nigeria's imported goods list, and that is coming from NBS. Lagos massive attacks plot to weaken Southwest economy. And that is coming from the governors of the Southwest. Nigeria considers supplying power to Chad. Danjuma says and others renegotiate Nigeria imbalance, producing sorrow and poverty. Also, please go after looters. 483 arrested in Lagos, Plateau, Anambra, and others. With the rider, we will fish out looters in Lagos, Osun, Akwa Ibom Police Command vows. 14 killed during looting of Kogi, Adamawa, Taraba Pilates warehouses. Also, Pilates and warehouses. Evidence that Buhari is not our problem. And that is coming from Buhari's daughter. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Akeredolu Abiodun condemned Igbo quit notice video. Also, Ogun, Oyo, reopened schools. Lagos public institutions remain short. Generator mechanic arrested for stealing 7 million naira car in Ogun. Also, hoodlums attacked, chased away contractors repairing Abeokuta Expressway. Straight to the Nation newspaper now. Pence to keep United States campaign after close aides test positive. Victims of NSAS protest will get justice. Looting continues in FCT and 4 states. Also, virtual session stay after COVID-19, says ECOWAS to court. Lagos private public schools remains closed. Also, still on the front page of the Nation newspaper, Chief Imam others urge youths to shun violence. Center decries shooting of protesters. We'll go on a short break, and when we're back, we'll bring you more headlines from other newspapers.
Pensioners FM. This is Africa's model.
All right, you're welcome back to Newsreel on Pensioners 106.7 FM. I'll take more headlines from the Nigerian Tribune. COVID-19 case update, 62 new cases confirmed. Nigeria records 62 cases, total now 61,992. Buhari says peaceful NSAS protesters killed will get justice. Enough is enough. Restore order. IG tells AIGs, CPs, and others. YWC changes to Ilana Modua in line with Awolowo's legacy. Reps to support Lagos, other affected states. Also, your APC berates states PDP spokesperson. El Zakzaki is not dead. IMN dispels death rumor. Now to the Daily Trust newspaper. Gunmen demand 20 million naira for abducted Dusay varsity staff. Or your reopened schools after hand SARS protest. Now to the Blueprint newspaper. Mob gains entrance into Abuja warehouse, loot food, clothes items. Okorocha advocates 50 to 70% quote in senators, representatives, and other salaries. Southeast governors tell Indigbos what to do in Lagos. Also, still on NSAS protest, Kano Igbo community leaders and community tenders apology. Kogi government reacts as residents besiege warehouse in and pack palliatives in Lokoja, DJ Switch, and the blood of the innocent. Just to let you know that analyst William Zero is right here in the studios. Good morning.
Good morning. How was your night?
Very, very well.
Good morning, Bada. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, so I'll go to the details of the headlines and I'll start from um, the Punch newspaper, where we have the story looting of palliative warehouses continues in Abuja. Adama Kogi deaths recorded in Stampede. The looting of warehouses for the storage of COVID-19 palliative items spread to the federal capital territory as well as Adamawa and Kogi states on Sunday, with looters making away with foodstuffs and other items. In Abuja, warehouses at Idu Industrial Estate, Jabi, were attacked by some persons. This happened hours after looters were prevented from raiding a warehouse where COVID-19 palliatives were kept at Area 10, Garki. Also, another headline here, reps reconsider dishonored register for persons who misled Nigerians. The House of Representatives is proposing naming and shaming persons who make false claims, presentations, and representations that can mislead government and other Nigerians. Such persons, if found guilty, may also be barred from holding public offices. The proposal is contained in the bill for an act to provide for moral accountability for Nigerian citizens and for related matters. Sponsor of the bill, Mr. Wajin Nombek Abiante, in the explanatory memorandum on the legislation, noted that the bill seeks to make Nigerians morally accountable for their actions and inaction. Also, the Yoruba World Congress has announced that it has changed its name to Ilana Omodua. This is contained in a statement by its President General, Professor Banji Akitoye, and the Chairman of the Communique Drafting Committee of the Congress, Professor Wale Adeniro. They explained that the decision to change the name was born out of the desire to run the organization in line with the philosophy of the late Yoruba sage, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, led Egbe Omodua. The WIC also changed the name. Also said the change of name was necessary because several Yoruba traditional rulers and leaders had kicked against adopting an English name to lead the struggle for the liberation and freedom of the Yoruba people. Also, hoodlums attacked and chased away contractors repairing Lagos Abeokuta Expressway. The Ogun State Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure says contractors repairing the Lagos Abeokuta Expressway have stopped work after being chased by hoodlums. The commissioner said the hoodlums beat and chased the contractors and their team away from site. He said the development was responsible on the slow pace of palliative works on the road. Adesoya, who disclosed these to journalists in Abeokuta, lamented that many of the contractors were injured while more than 100 truckloads of materials meant for the road repair could not get to the site. And now to your state, the governor, Engineer Sheyi Makinde, has directed schools in Ibadan, the state capital, to resume academic activities today. The Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology in the state, Olasukomi Olaleye, gave the indication in a statement issued on Sunday. The statement reads in part, Governor Makinde directed the closure of schools in Ibadan following the NSAS protest that rocked the state. Similarly, the Ogun State government has ordered resumption of academic activities in both public and private schools in the state. The state government had last week declared all schools closed in the wake of rising tensions that followed nationwide protest. 4,500 workers will lose jobs if hoodlums attack our factory. I'll give you details of that after this short break. Don't go away. You're welcome back to Newsreel on Pensioners 106.7 FM. The management of Cam Odin has warned hoodlums who, under the guise of NSAS, embark on vandalization of both public and private property in Ilori, the Kwara state capital. It warned that it should desist from the dastardly act or face the full wrath of the law. In a statement by the media and public relations manager of the company, Abduraziz Arawona, described the attempted and threat of attack on the Odins as an undue agitation taken so far. Mr. Williams, I'll go to you before we read other stories. When youth stripped to the streets about 18 days ago, protesting against police brutality, codenamed EndSARS, not too many gave them the chance to go as far as they went until last week when the protest had rapidly spread across the country. Remember that the Lekki toll gate was completely shut down by protesters, and similar occurrence happened simultaneously at various government houses in the southwest. Also, during the weekend, there were reports of rampant looting across the country, particularly in Ibadan, Jos, and Oshu. What would be your take on this?
First, one thing is this: we must never underestimate the resolve of a people. That is always very wrong. Now, when the protest started, granted, there has been other protest, there has been other call for a SARS reform that somehow did not get a time of day. But somehow perhaps those in government also looked at these NSAS protests and thought to themselves, this one also will just fizzle away. That was a mistake. And now we have seen that mistake. Now, going forward about the looting and I don't think right now that the word hoodlums or looters, I don't think anybody has a exclusivity to that word at this time, because the so-called looters, they've done something that is condemnable, and the government, they've also behaved in the same way as looters and as hoodlums.
How do you mean?
Because if you set something in motion, something could lead to a protest or to a stampede or to violence, you set it in motion. And when that thing leads to a protest or to a stampede or to violence, you have no right to absorb yourself of guilt and start pointing fingers at others. So you must also take a part of the blame because you set it in motion. That is what we are seeing presently. Things that should have been taken care of that we are not taking care of. and it led to this sorry past. So why you point your finger, point also some to yourself. So why you call them hoodlums, you as well call yourself the same name. Because now we are seeing warehouses stocked with what is supposed to be palliatives for your indigents. Now, as a human being, having listened to the governors, I am not satisfied. Nobody is going to be okay with such explanations. You cannot be thirsty as a human being, then lock up the tap that could give you water. Those that brought the palliatives, they knew how urgent it was for those things to get to the people.
But for those who went to the um, Senator Teslim Folari's house, it was claimed by the senator that most of these items were for the people in the constituency.
Why was it kept? The people,
It was planned to be distributed in November.
when did they come? You see, sometimes there's a need for us to attach urgency to the things that are urgent. People are struggling, people are dying out of hunger, out of starvation. And these things were brought by these people, not even you. You did not buy this thing. These things were brought so as to alleviate the stress, the suffering of the people. Then you went, you stored this thing a month, 2 weeks. Come on, let's be honest to ourselves. It's just the lack of humanity that somehow permeates our higher echelon. That is why you could do a thing like this, then you come out again, and then you start blaming those that perhaps got wind of where these things are, and then they rush to that place. Naturally, these things, when they rush to that place, things are going to get out of hand. But you are the one that set it in motion in the first place. So why I will appeal to these looters and perhaps quote unquote now these hoodlums to at least temper, to be a bit cautious about the way they go about these things. Why we blame them, we must also not fail to blame those that set these things in motion. Now we are hearing all around the state, in this state, most of the palliatives that we're supposed to go to the people, we didn't see much of it. That is a fact. Now we are hearing there are warehouses where these things are kept. In Lagos, in Edo State, in Ogun State. Why is it that now, if not for this NSAS protest, we wouldn't have known? Now, do you think in your heart of heart that this thing would have been, brought out of their own volition, if not for a purpose that will serve their own interest? No, it would have been brought out.
How about individual warehouses that were looted?
No, that is going too far. For me, that is going too far. But then the same thing applies. When these things happen, emotions has fled up. Some naturally will divert to areas where they ought not to. That is why we keep saying these things must not be allowed to happen in the first place. Because when it happens, the control of it will be out of the hands of those that set it in motion in the first place. And then they'll start looking for whom to blame. Now, going to individual warehouses, that is a crime. That needs to be condemned in totality, and I condemn it. But going forward, we must, there's, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So I appeal to those in power. These things, you are capable of avoiding these things. Don't set them in motion, then start blaming others for following the footstep you have laid down. You are a leader. You are supposed to lead. This is not how you lead. When your people are suffering, they are hungry, and the palliatives that were brought by others, you didn't provide them. Others did, because they saw the plight of your people, and they said, let's give them this thing. And you now went to go and hoard it. And you now come out and you explain, try to blame others. Yes, why I blame others, I as well blame the leadership that set it in motion.
Just to let you know that you can join the conversation by calling the studio line 0908 111 1067 0908 111 1067. I'll take it again 0808 010 1067 or 0908 111 1067. Oh, federal government has accepted all the demands of protesters now and as committed to police reforms, but there are concerns. How do you think Government can proceed at this time to achieve successful reforms. And also a rider to that. All right, we have a caller.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning. You're welcome to Newsreel.
My name is Tajudin Oke from Akana.
You're welcome, sir.
The looters, they are not an adult. They are thugs, not the school children, not young, not the protesters. You get me now? The looters,
Oh,
they
sir.
are thugs.
Oh, we lost that call. Okay, and my question is, do you think the creation of state polices should be part of the reforms government should vigorously pursue at this
Uh,
time?
in my own view,
Mm,
state police should be at the core
mm,
of this reform.
Mm.
See, we have been calling for this for quite a while. State police. Let's decentralize the police. Right now, it is too unworthy, and somehow the leadership of it is suspect. Now, if it is state police, if there is a failure of security in this state, it will be to this state.
particularly the heightened rate of crime across the country now.
Yes, because somehow right now we do not have the police out.
Mm,
It seems to be as if right now they are not operating how they should. Yes, we attribute that to this protest. But going forward, as regards the reform, police has to be at the center of it. Let each state take ownership of their security. So if there's a failure in this state, it is in this state. It won't extend to other states. So we can't blame Ogun State now for the failure of security in Oyo State, or blame Abuja. You know what I mean? So let it be domesticated. So as see in other climes, these things work in other climes. If we are trying to copy, let's look at these things. In America and Britain, they have their state, they have their federal, they have their county police. So the thing is closer. So those that are policing you and I, you know them. No, they know you. They perhaps grew up in that area. In fact, if we do it that way, the time for investigating these crimes will be cut short. Because before you even became a police personnel, those that you grew up with in that area, you are aware of those that has the penchant for criminality. So when anything happens in that area, you know those you could go to before you start expanding your scope of investigation. So it is that will be at the core of it. And also we have talked about the remuneration of police personnel, and that should be also at the core of this police reform, because we know that for a fact we cannot pay our police personnel enough for the job they do. Just as teachers, we cannot pay them enough for this job that they are doing. But we must take it away from this, in my own view, laughable minimum wage. Now we must look for a way to structure their payment in such a way that perhaps it is, let's say, living wage, so as they can be, in one way or the other, absorbed from being, attracted or of being, coerced by some of these things that somehow they are lacking. Now, if we pay them well for the job that they are supposed to do for us, then we can limit those that are able to entice them. So they won't feel as if we have to go out there and be doing things that are contrary to our responsibility. So the payment structure has to be looked at critically, and also their pension after service, because most of them now is not even the police, even the civil servants. They want to get their pension before they retire. You understand? So this also must be looked at critically, and make sure that you don't encourage them to get their pension before they retire. Now we know of the police trust fund. A lot of billions go into that trust fund, and somehow it has not been explained yet how that billions are being spent. So that also, the clarity, the clarity, yes, of what is done with these things has also to be explained. Now, going forward, the mode of engagement has to be defined. How the police ought to engage the citizens when it comes to arrest, how it should be done, and somehow, if you come to arrest somebody, it is imperative that at least you identify yourself. That's how it is done elsewhere. And show your ID card if you have to. And if that person is not satisfied, he should be able to call a commanding officer so as to verify. So these things has to be, there's a lot that could be done. But then to do all these things, those that should do it must come to the table with the genuineness of heart, believing that these things are needed.
Well, that brings it to the question of how can the police even purge itself of alleged corruption and also restore integrity before Nigerians and the global community?
Well, if you see one thing, if we are determined to do something, we can do it. The police can simply purge itself. The police, if we want to be honest, are aware of those that are not up to par amongst them. They are aware of them. They are assuming that somehow report has come to the station over and over again about their attitude. So if you want to, you can do that. But while you purge the lower echelon, you also have to purge the so-called higher echelon, because most times we see that the corruption flows from that top. When you give a policeman, the one that should be at the street, you give him a quota to meet. Naturally, you cannot absorb yourself for what he has done in the street. So all these things, they can do it. It is easy to set this in motion. In America, there's what they call the IA, internal affairs. These are the police that actually police the police. You don't know them. They will dress like police. They are amongst you. They go out with you to do all this your raid. But while they are there, they are cataloging your activities. And then that's what they present before a panel when you are to be disciplined. So we can also do that, have the IA or the internal affairs within your police structure that will help to fish out some of these bad eggs. We cannot say that we are going to be able to completely erase the bad eggs. It's not possible. But at least to the barest minimum, we can do that if we are committed.
All right, you can join the conversation by calling the studio line 0908 111 1067 or 0808 010 1067. Stakeholders seek investments in trees for paper industry. Stakeholders in the paper and pulp industry have said investment in machinery and certain tree species needed for paper production is needed to reinvigorate the industry. The chairman, Printing and Publishing Group of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Princess Layo Okeowo stated these at the group's webinar centered around revitalizing the Nigerian paper industry. She said the paper industry was in comatose despite its huge potential, noting that it was important for stakeholders and government to revive the critical sector. We'll go on another short break. When we are back, we'll take more stories.
Pensioners FM
right, you're welcome back from that short break. It's Newsreel on Pensioners 106.7 FM. Akeredolu Abiodun condemned quit notice says it is senseless. The Ondo State government, Rotimi Akeredolu, has described a video that has gone viral, given quit notice to the Igbo people to leave Yoruba land as one capable of causing destabilization in the country. A group, Young Yoruba for Freedom, in a viral video had told the people of Igbo extraction residing in the southwest to leave the region. But the governor Sunday, while speaking on the violence that characterized the NSAS protests in Akure, the Ondo State capital strongly condemned the divisive and video by one inconsequential individual, going that he has given Igbos an ultimatum to leave the southwest region. The Igbo, like every other tribe in the southwest, are free to go about their legitimate businesses and they are enjoined to ignore the ultimatum. Also, hoodlums attacked and chased away contractors repairing Lagos, and why hoodlums kill their workers. Also, the North Central Forum formed Development Commission. The National Publicity Secretary of the newly formed North Central States People's Forum, NCPF, Aldo Sule, has said the forum is a platform to agitate for development for a commission, as was the case in other geopolitical zone. Also, I'll go to the Guardian newspaper here, where we have former governor of Imo State and Senator Rocha Zokorocha canvassing an immediate drastic cut in the salaries and allowances of governors, ministers, as well as national and state assembly members. He spoke with journalists in Abuja, where he argued that the 469-member National Assembly is unwieldy. You would react to that, Williams.
Well, it's a welcome call.
Because according to him, that he says there's a need for sacrifice on the part of public office holders.
Yes, it's a welcome call, but I think it is playing to the gallery. And I can assure you that this bill, it will die before it gets to the house. Yes, what he has said is the need for sacrifice, especially from this our so-called leaders.
Or would you say that's the reason why most looters go into politicians' houses to loot?
Well, it could be, but it will not be a thing that should be justified. It could be, but the thing is this: the take home of our politicians for so long we'll be talking about it. It is too much, and that is why it has been turned into a do or die affairs. Because once you become maybe House of Rep member, even at state level, within 2-3 years, you start owning mansions. So their take home is too much, and somehow they are actually fleecing Nigerians out of their just, what is just to them. Now, this call from Okorocha being one of them, well, like I said, is a welcome call, but it is just a play to the gallery. His colleagues, they are not interested. That is the problem. They are not interested in changing their kind of lifestyle. So they have cultivated that lifestyle through what they get from the national coffers. Their mansions in different countries, their exotic cars, their children going to boarding schools and the rest things. They have come to become so used to this way of life. So for them, it's like their entitlement. So each time we call on them to look at their salaries, their take home, each time we call on them, each time they rebuff our call because they're not interested. Maybe perhaps Okorosha will be able to lobby his colleagues and let them see the need to at least key into what he is trying to sell to them. But I can assure you, it is not going to fly because these people, sad to say, do not care so much about the interests of those they are supposed to be working for.
Let's see how that goes. I'll take more headlines now from the Nation newspaper. Naira steady despite NSAS protest. STF arrests 30 suspects for looting the girl's home in Jersey. Police warehouses property protected in Katsina. And Odua Youth Group warns looters against setting Southwest on fire. And from the United Nations, nuclear weapons ban treaty to go into effect in 90 days. Pope Francis names 13 new cardinals. Or your government wants hoodlums to steer clear. Spain declares second nationwide lockdown as Italy adopts new restrictions. Also pens to keep up with United States campaign after close AIDS test positives. Virtual sessions stay after COVID 19, says ECOWAS court. Russia to assist Zimbabwe in overcoming EU US sanctions. And EDSA's protest please are victims of the Nigerian system. Also centered the cries shooting of protesters. Before we go this morning, Mr. Williams, what is your message to Nigerians, particularly protesters, now that government has heeded to the cause and announced that some steps towards reforming the force will be taken?
Well, I will have to appeal to the youth. To yes, the leaders, they've given us so much reason not to trust them. That is out there. But now that we have brought before them our recommendations, let's give some time. Let's give some time. Let's see how they attend to these recommendations. And also let's be very, very watchful of the steps they are taking. So while we appeal to the youths, let's also appeal to the leaders to hold themselves accountable, to be responsible to the oath they took to work for Nigerians. So it's not enough to say, to appeal to the youths and somehow leave those that are responsible for the uprising in the first place. So they must talk to themselves and say, look, how have we been governing this nation? It is the failure of governance that has led to this uprising. So they must own up, those leaders. Some will say, the youth they are calling for this change now. They did not see the war of 1963 and the rest things. Yes, they didn't see it. We all know what war does, and nobody wants it. But you cannot continue on a path that you know is not profiting to the future of these youth and expect them to just keep quiet. So while we call on the youth and I appeal to them, please, let's down tools. Yes, you have made your voice heard and it has been heard loud and clear. And some steps are being taken. Let's look at how far these steps are going to go. And I swear, the leaders, please, you have a responsibility. Live up to that responsibility.
All right, thank you. Leaders should live up to their responsibility. The national leader of the All Progressive Congress, Ajiwa Bola Tinubu, has said the NSAS protest and its fallout, including shooting of peaceful protesters at the Lekki toll gate by soldiers, has complicated matters for him. Tinubu lamented that he was first accused of sponsoring NSAS protests, then later accused of sending soldiers to shoot out the protesters at Lekki toll gate on Tuesday night to disperse them. He said his political enemies falsely claimed that he sent soldiers to the toll gate because he has financial interest in the toll gate and he was losing revenue due to conflict. He, however, described the claims as complete and terrible lies, saying they were sponsored by his enemies to pit him against the state and the federal government. Well, before we go this morning, my question is the social media. Some claim that there are fake news around, and some, well, it's positive, but how would you describe the negative impact of the social media on the peace of the country at large?
Anybody that peddles fake news now should be condemned because it has the penchant, it had the ability to create disaffection. In fact, that video talked about that young man calling for the Igbos to leave. So I wish such a video wasn't allowed to go viral. A thing like that, I don't know.
Inside the public?
Yes, it has that power to incite the public. So a thing like that should not be allowed to go viral. That is where also the managers of these platforms, that is where also they have to work. Things like that should be looked at and stepped down.
Because it assumes most Nigerians want to be journalists now.
Yes.
You just wake up,
Yes.
write anything.
That is the power. It has everything that we have, has positives and has negatives. Now, right now, most of the things that are happening that we are hearing about now, if not because of this social media, we wouldn't have been able to hear most of them. But yes, along the line, some fake news would seed these things and make it a bit difficult to sift the wheat from the chaff. But having said that, there is positive and there is negative. Now we have to take both and weigh them. So also those that are absorbing this news have to be a bit careful in the way they disseminate the news. If you are not sure of a source of a particular story, don't forward, don't share. So that is how we try to at least checkmate some of these fake news. You know, these things sometimes they make it so appealing that you cannot help but share or like these things. But at the same time, I have a responsibility to the public. You also have that same duty to the public to make sure that whatever you do is, a positive, not a negative. But by and large, social media has been a welcome addition to our discussion. It helps us now at least to see the narrative of the leaders. We can once in a while counter their narrative now because we often have some of these facts to push into their faces. Before it wasn't like that. It's what they say, we just follow. So it is good that we have it now, but we also must assume a higher level of responsibilities.
Thank you for your submissions, and we'll draw the curtains of today's program with this quote from Saint Francis de Sales, which says, "Never be in a hurry, do everything quietly and in a calm spirit. Do not lose your inner peace for everything, even if your whole world seems upset." Thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for your thoughts.
It's a pleasure.
And to our dear listener and our caller, Tajudi, okay, we appreciate you. Join our colleagues tomorrow for another edition of Newswheel on Pensioners 106.7 FM, located at Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan. Enjoy your day. I am Inumidun. Afonja did it.
Pensioners FM. This is Africa's model.
Pensioners FM 106.7. Àgbàlódé rédíò Àgbárígo lónírèké ń bàdàn.
Pensioners Global Ventures, Oyo State Pensioners House at Barigo, Onireke, Ibadan. Calling. Our event center located at the ground floor of our Africa's model building in a serene, strategic and conducive commercial hub of Ibadan is second to none. Spacious, comfortable and deep